So let's look at a big part which holds us back in delivering great results is imposter syndrome. I think everyone here is aware of what is an imposter syndrome, right? Anyone wants to take a shot at defining it?
Yeah, imposter syndrome is something like you feel that you basically you don't feel yourself up to the mark, and then you feel yourself inferior to others. Basically, you don't have confidence in your skill.
Any other thoughts? Lakshmi, you wanted to share something?
I mean, nothing. I think I totally suffer from this because people around me say I do a great work and everything, but I keep questioning myself. Hey, I'm like justifying the pay that they're paying me. Like this thought keeps running. I was like, what value did I deliver? And yeah.
Exactly. I think those are the right words to vocalize it. So anyone here who doesn't feel imposter syndrome? Anil? Yeah. There's always one person usually in the group. Last time also there was one person. Anil, like how are you wired differently? Like why do you not feel imposter? Because this is quite rare. Very few people self-identify as not feeling that, right? So what led you to that?
Yeah, I think it's been quite a while before I felt, kind of had this kind of feeling, and maybe due to my situation, whereas I haven't changed my job in quite a while, although I've been changing teams within my company, but I haven't really changed my job in a while. So maybe it might be that.
Right. So it could be that, right? So it's you have felt this before, but in the last few months you have not felt this because you have been at the same role and you know in and outs of what you're doing. Yeah, that justifies it. So very interesting case we had last time was one person who said that he's medically wired differently, and he never feels that imposter syndrome. So even as a child, he connected a medical term for that. So he's very prone to take risks. As a child, he used to get into trouble a lot because of not having being wired differently. So it's very rare that people don't feel this feeling. So that's one most important thing to take away. Unless you are wired differently, or you are doing something that you know in and out of, you have achieved mastery at your skill and mastery at your job, then it's probably you never feel, right? But for example, Anil, if he goes into, say, playing baseball or something which he has not done before, he probably will feel that, right? So but I've also seen rare people who are like medically wired differently. So for example, like Elon Musk is wired very differently from other people because he doesn't really care about what other people think. He's socially very he doesn't take social cues. He has autism that lets him focus on one direction. It cuts a lot of noise that comes to his brain about hey, what are other people thinking about me? All of that is gone because he's wired very differently because of a medical condition. So that helps him be great at his focus. So so for normal people, mere mortals like us, imposter syndrome is common. So that's the first thing to recognize. So we'll do this later. So there are two parts to imposter syndrome. There is a justified part and an imaginary part, right? So there is a justified part when where we are doing something new for the first time, right? There is this internal fear of, hey, am I doing it right? Will I screw this up? Is there going to be an impact to some customer because of if I mess up, right? Will my work impact my peers in a bad way? So all of that is the justified part when we are doing something new. So this is a good thing to have justified imposter syndrome, justified part of the imposter syndrome, because it keeps us grounded, right? Hey, I don't know everything. I might need to work on building this skill. So it's good to have this justified part, but I think 80% or 90% of our imposter is imaginary, which is the part that is holding us back, right? That ratio is what I have seen talking to so many people I mentor. This is the ratio that I feel, but it could be different based on each person's circumstance, right? So what can we do about this imaginary part? Because the justified part is good, that tells us what is the gap and what we need to fix. This imaginary part is the thing that we need to overcome. What can we do about it? So a few hacks that has worked for me is admitting that you don't know, like, really kills the imposter, right? This imposter really takes over us when we try to fake, and even on things that we don't know, we are trying to put on a mask as if we know, right? So that's one thing, right? So I had an imposter about like, hey, I didn't go to a great college, top college. So that earlier in my career, that used to keep me back, I wouldn't raise my hands, I wouldn't chime into discussions where I could really add value. So like, what helped me was in the initial phase was like, hey, I get it out of the way that hey, I'm from this college, but I have done XYZ. So that admitting that whatever you feel is causing the root cause for that imposter feeling, just admitting that openly kills that imposter. What I realized that nobody cared about it, right? It was me. Nobody cared about the college that I went to, but it was me cooking up the stories that other people judge me on this, right? So that is one small example. The other example, the situation was when like two senior engineers had some discussion about how to implement a big feature, and I openly admitted to them that like, hey, I have not written production code since 2012, right? I can give you an uneducated guess, but I would prefer you guys resolve this, right? So instead of trying to come up with something where I'm trying to show to others that I'm smart, I know this, openly admitting, hey, I'm not the right person for this, that kills the imposter, right? So these are two examples from my personal life, like where admitting helped me overcome the feeling of imposter. So this is one hack. Curious to hear any thoughts about this, if people have applied this, or has this worked for anyone else?
Okay, so I think like this admitting itself kicks off another imposter syndrome. When you say like, hey, I don't know this, it's like, do people expect me to know this kind of thing? So
right. Do people expect me to know this, right? So so that's fine. Like the truth is, you don't know this, right? So when you confront the truth, there may be a situation where you should be knowing this, but you don't know this, right? But the domain that we are in, there is never, unless you are there in it for 5-6 years, it's never that it's very rare that you have all the answers, right? So people know that it's a well accepted fact that you can't know everything about everything in the system. So yeah, so it could be a no-brainer, something that should have been a no-brainer you might not know, but that is fine. Yeah, I have very rarely seen people getting penalized for something that they genuinely didn't know, right? So Anand?
So I'm just looking at some of the corner case scenarios for this approach. Like there are some team which is unsafe and you cannot show your vulnerabilities, and you are perceived as like how much you know, and then probably it's just a, you know, your expertise is just a reflection of how people perceive you, instead of exactly figuring it out how much actually you know. So it's just a perception. So how this solution work in those scenarios?
Yeah. I'll admit this probably won't work for every situation. There would be corner cases where we'll have to use our judgment. If we are in like, I think any good leader or any good manager should encourage this kind of an open behavior where everyone can feel safe to share their shortcomings, so that as a team we can get better, right? The goal is, as a team we should be able to deliver, not one person should be able to deliver, right? So psychological safety, like Google did a research where number one trait of a great manager was whether this manager is able to create a psychologically safe environment, right? So if your workplace doesn't have it, it's very unfortunate, and you should definitely use your judgment when you are being vulnerable and sharing this. I think if your workspace doesn't support it, what can you do? I don't know of a good answer. How do you overcome that, right? So what's the alternative, right? So do we have any other solution when you want to overcome this, but you are forced to wear a mask, right? So that's a very difficult situation. I agree with you, Anand.
So Krishna, what I've done in the past is I've been in situations where I didn't know everything. For example, when I just recently joined my current company, I was placed on a project to work on Kafka and Kubernetes, and I had never worked on it and never done on it. And burning the midnight oil, or learning about it on during the evening and weekends, that's what helped me overcome that situation. I didn't mention it to the team that I did not know about everything, but at the same time, I was as soon as my office work was done, I was just reading about those two technologies so that I could have a good conversation with the team at the end of the day. So that was how I was able to overcome it a little bit. I don't know whether that was the right approach for it, but that's what I used.
Right. Yeah. So when there is this is a justified imposter, right? So what you faced was a justified imposter, where there is a gap and you work on that gap, right? So so what we are
Krishna,
trying
just,
to this,
yeah, just one point from me. Why do we call it being an imposter? It is, we can just simply call it that I am being honest with myself, that, hey, I don't know this stuff. The thing imposter comes into picture when, let's say I joined Google for that matter, and I think that everybody is smart here, more smarter than me. But eventually over a period of time, I realize, hey, but everybody's like me. They are humans. So that's what I would classify as being imposter. But hey, if you don't know something, you call it out. That's a culture we should promote in every company, that, hey, be honest, show your true self here.
right. Totally agree with that. Yeah. So what we call it, whether we call it being imposter or we call it being honest, I agree with you, Ashish. Like it's just being honest, right? So
Right. Yeah.
but we are humans. We want to look good in others' eyes, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
there is no getting away from that, right? We all do
Right.
that,
Yeah.
right? So but just acknowledging that it's and just having taking small baby steps and showing that courage to being honest with others goes a long way in overcoming that, if you feel that that is holding you back. So and to Anand's point, don't maybe start with, if your culture is not set up for that, maybe start with small things, right? So see how it feels, see how the team reacts, and see if that helps you overcome that. Anil?
Hey, so the nuance that I'm driving from whatever I've heard until now is that if you don't know something, or if you're asked to do something which is outside of your primary role, it's justified that you say, I don't know, and then it should not result in imposter syndrome, ideally.
Right.
But if it is something that is a part of your primary role in the company, then how is it that you could handle this? Because in such cases, people might attribute, like Anand said, to you saying not knowing as you can't figure it out as well, instead of you just needing some more time to figure it out.
Right. No, that's a good point, right? So it's not about like, hey, admitting I don't know, and you help me figure out this, or like, hey, I don't know, give it to someone else. That's not what we're saying here, right? So we are saying, hey, I don't know, and I am doing X, Y, Z to get to a solution. If we can show that, like 90% of the time, the challenge is when we don't communicate and we are trying to burn the midnight oil behind the scenes, and people don't understand the effort that we are putting in, and they judge us that, hey, maybe this person is just slacking off, or they are not putting their 100% effort, right? So that could be the reason, right? So when you say, hey, I don't know, but I'm doing XYZ to figure it out, and I'm trying XYZ to get to the solution for to deliver this for the team, I think that's one good way to do that. I agree. It's not about, hey, I don't know, don't give it to me, or I don't know, find someone else, or I don't know, help, spoon feed me every time. That's not the message. It's if you feel that this like it's also a self-assessment, right? So is this something that is holding you back? Is this something that is stopping you from chipping into the discussion, right? So a lot of time what happens is like it's a downward spiral, right? So it starts with a small thing where you don't know something, and you will hold yourself back from in the discussion. Hey, let me do that later, and I'll figure it out later. I'll not chime into this discussion. But the thing is, like, the rest of the people who know, they just move ahead, and you always play the catch up game. You never catch up with them, right? So it's this is a way to like be on the same wavelength with your team, and taking help from them to catch up also.
And then there are two different types, right? So one is knowledge gaps that you know that you can fill, it just needs time. But then there are other things which are your weaknesses. If that thing that they're asking you falls under your weakness, then how do you deal with it? Is that different from how you deal with your knowledge gap?
Totally. Knowledge gaps are easiest parts, right? So can you share, like, if you feel comfortable, what is a real life example of like where you felt your weaknesses are holding you back, and in the team setting?
Yeah. So my primary occupation is as a senior software engineer, and then I at one point was asked to take on work which was a lot outside of my code base and encompassing the entire code base, which needed to actually talk to different teams and do so on and so forth. I needed a lot of knowledge on low-level design and all of that stuff, right? And they were like pre-wired in a certain way to just and nobody else knew that you know, that in its entirety, because people had left and so on and so forth.
Legacy systems.
So with low-level design, you need to know everything to figure out first, you know, what they have done, and then, you know, form your own opinion on it. And the project time definitely didn't allow for it. So my weakness there was definitely low-level design, and I can admit to that. There was like no knowledge gap, I guess, because it was just about going through stuff and figuring that out.
Yeah, I'm slightly confused there, Anil. So why is that not a knowledge gap, and why is it a weakness? Was it like a system level design, low level system design If you can do low-level system design on your current system or given a new system, probably that's not like that's not a weakness. Low-level system design is not a weakness. It's a is it just a phrasing part where like, hey, this system, which none of us know about the system. There is this legacy system, and people who are experts on it are not here anymore. I don't have the knowledge on how the system is built, what are the inputs, what are the outputs. Is that a knowledge gap, or is that like a low-level system design gap?
So I would say that I did not have any idea on the assumptions on which they type things together. And that was something difficult to get, and I didn't have enough expertise to find that myself.
Okay. So the weakness was around given an unknown system, what are the right questions to ask so that I can learn about those. I can get into the so that probably was your weakness. It's not the. So basically, how to learn about this new system? Like, given a brand new system, what is the fastest way to understand the low-level design of the system? That probably was your weakness, and that not knowing about that was the knowledge gap. In this case, there was probably both, right? So, so if you had if there is a senior more person, probably there was no more senior person there. Or that's where you felt like, hey, everything is on my shoulders. There is this is a common challenge when you get senior enough. You can't rely on someone else, right? Everyone is trying to rely on you. You can't rely on someone else. So that's a real challenge. This is where you probably like need to reset expectations with your manager and with your team, and with senior engineers, where like a lot of junior engineers look up to you to have that magic answer. It's not easy to have the magic answer. So being vulnerable and open and sharing like, hey, I don't really understand this new system. As a team, how do we figure out like this is a new system? Maybe we inherited that system, right? So I don't know the history of how that system came to your team. A lot of times you inherit systems. You have no clue what the system was doing. The people who built it have moved to a different team. A lot of things that can happen. So I think the weakness there that you identified is like is right. Probably that was giving you that imposter. You probably have not done this before. That's why like if you do this a couple of times, it's okay. So every time we do something for the very first time, it's very natural to have that feeling, right? So the key there is what are the questions to ask so that I can get to the low level design faster, right? So in that instance also, I think admitting that who do you admit to is the challenge, right? Like you are the senior most person. So yeah, so as you grow, right? So one thing you'll recognize is it gets lonely at the top. You have to be the support system for everyone else. You don't have any support system, but you just have to bite that bullet.
Yeah, in my case, definitely, I had a principal engineer who was kind of the architect of the systems. He was still there for my answering some of my questions. But you brought an interesting point there, which I didn't realize is I did not probably ask the right set of questions, or probably ask some more redundant questions than I should have.
Right.
One principle I try to follow is the 80-20. In terms of like the right question to ask. And again, like whatever you just said, the example, the question you ask and question, the example you provided, it really resonates with me. It's, yeah, it is hard to be vulnerable, but sometimes there's no better way, both for our sanity and for, just moving things forward.
Okay. Someone else had a hand raised.
I think
Yeah, it
Anson
was
had
me.
his hand raised, and someone else.
Okay, Anson, you had something.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm definitely still a little green and have had less experience than a lot of people, but I've generally found that when I don't know something, especially with the justified imposter syndrome, when I go and ask people for help, and like Anat was saying, some cultures aren't like this, but usually the people that I work with are always really excited and happy to help me, especially if I'm working on a story or something and I don't know something, the sooner I can communicate that, the better, because they're happy to help. They're happy to take time to teach me how to learn and how to figure it out, and to accelerate that, because that benefits the team. Because if they spend a little bit of time teaching me what I need to do in the beginning, then that'll make the team better, make the team faster, and it helps me grow. So I understand that that's not the case everywhere, but definitely something I've experienced and I appreciate. So, and asking for help is really hard because you have to be humble, and that's really hard.
Yes, yes. And there is also a way to ask for help that earn trust, right? So if you go to people, so I've seen like people resist helping others when they feel like, hey, I'm having to spoon feed, right? If there are managers in the room, they probably have heard from their engineers that, hey, right, this person I'm having to spoon feed too much, and this is taking too much of my time. Right, so that's a common feedback that managers hear from people mentoring others, right? So, so as a person who's, if you're new to a team, one thing you can do is like, before you ask a question for help, ask for help. List down the things that you have already tried. Hey, I've tried XYZ, and this has not worked. That's why I'm coming to you. Can you help me unblock? So when you preface that with, hey, I have tried this, and I'm coming to you to help, that shows that, hey, you are not just coming to them for everything. So that earns trust. So that's a common thing where like you might have tried 10 things and you go to someone and say, hey, I'm stuck on this, without telling them what all you have tried, is a common way to lose trust. And when as humans, we can sense, right? So when someone is irritated about our question, we can sense that, right? And that actually feeds the imposter. So next time you'll be hesitant to go to that person again if you sense that that person was irritated last time with your question. So if you preface that your question with, hey, what all you have tried, and this is why I came to you. I value your time. That shows that I value your time. I'm not coming to you with every small thing. That way is a good way to earn trust, and also next time you won't be hesitant to go to that person. So the second hack is something called as fear setting. This is a term used by Tim Ferriss. There is a good TED talk on this. I highly recommend if you to watch that TED talk. I'll probably share the link after the session. So this is an exercise where if you feel like some imposter is holding you back, just write down answers to these 3 questions. Right. So what is the worst that can happen? So usually worst is not that bad. We over exaggerate this. When you really write down the worst and you make peace with it, it lifts a lot of mental burden. And if you ask these 3 questions, is it really bad? And once you accept this is the worst thing that can happen, and then now you can think of like, how can I reduce the risk? So it's a good structured way to overcome your fears. Highly recommend that TED talk. I'll share that after the call. So let's do a breakout. I'll send you folks into breakout room, and where you will go and share these 2 share answers to these 2 questions. Where do you feel imposter today? And what can you do about it? The reason we are doing breakout is when we share and openly discuss, we articulate things better when we are talking to someone. So that's the reason for the breakout.